My name's Will, and I'm dead. I know it's sad, but hey, a lot of awesome people are dead. It happens.
And who knows? After long work and dedication in the long run.
What long run? In the long run, we're all dead. I'm not gonna die. You see, I'm into this thing where if I get sick, I mean real sick, where I'm about to go, they just take me away and freeze me.
Although he is certain to die, perhaps from a household accident, which account for 65% of all unnatural deaths.
All right, we did not die today. I call that an unqualified success.
You're all gonna die. What's wrong with it?
I'm dying too.
You're going to die.
Prepare to die.
Death is full of surprises, huh?
You have no idea.
Welcome to Mortality Movies. I'm your host, Gail Rubin, the doyen of death. That's death, not deaf. A doyen is a woman who's considered senior in a group who knows a lot about a particular subject. So that would be me when it comes to the party. No one wants to plan a funeral or memorial service. Here in this series, we are going to show you film clips related to death, grief, funeral planning, end-of-life issues, and talk about it. Studies show that you will retain 30% more information related to a film clip than just a person telling you information. My panel of experts today, I have Jane Westbrook, death educator, and Kelly Saindon, who is a spiritual counselor specializing in end-of-life and grief. So today, if you are watching this program on YouTube, just know that the film clips we'll be watching should be generally available in the description box below, and you can watch the film clips that way. Our topic today is the many roles of funeral directors. You may not realize all the different things that a funeral director does, or someone who works at a funeral home. There are different titles and positions. Our first clip to help us understand this is from the 2011 film Bernie, based on a true story of the life of Bernie Tiede. In this scene, we see the many different roles that a funeral director fulfills. Let's watch this. A Corinthian. So you can see all of these different roles that he played. Now, a larger funeral home in a larger town might have different people doing separate pre-need sales staff. But in a smaller town, they do it all. Yeah. One of the other scenes in this film that I didn't include in our clip here, he goes on the radio to do the week's obituaries and has a way of describing people in the most glowing of terms, whether they deserved it or not. So, any thoughts about all of these different roles?
You're talking about the obituaries in glowing terms, whether they deserve it or not. That's one thing that I always find interesting about obituaries, is that they're always glowing. If I write my own, it's going to be glowing too. So, no, but interesting. Yeah, but they have to cover a lot of territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I think in educating people about what they do, there's a real short-sightedness of like making the space less business-like, holding someone's hand and walking them to the car. I mean, the detail is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They cover a lot of ground. And speaking about obituaries, that's our next clip from My Girl. There's this scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is talking with the funeral director, played by Dan Aykroyd. He is writing an obituary, but Notice very closely in the typewriter at the very beginning. What he's typing is pretty similar to what she reads about somebody else in the newspaper. Hot damn, he's got a date. But I like this film and this clip because it does show funeral directors do have life outside of work. But it is a very demanding job. Death happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and doesn't take a holiday. But in terms of the obituary that he was writing over and over and over again, he said, now this was 1972 when this film is set, it's a service we provide to the family. This day and age, an obituary is going to cost extra, and it costs a lot. Here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the Albuquerque Journal, you get a little
two inch, yeah.
And a photo, it's $500. I mean, it's expensive to run those death notices in the newspaper, and I don't think people fully appreciate that as part of the cost of a funeral. Mm-hmm. And, you know, generally the funeral directors are not writing it for you. They look to the family to help provide the information and craft an obituary. But there are ways to make an obituary an interesting story about the person. If people are concerned about the cost, what they can do is just put a short notice in the newspaper and then use the funeral home's website to do the full-blown story of their life.
Yeah, that's what they did for my twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm a master clinical social worker, and part of my degree was we had to write our own obituary.
Ooh.
And that was interesting because some people were like, okay, and they had a good time, and other people just couldn't even put pen to paper. So it was interesting to see how people reacted.
You really have to ponder, what have I achieved in this lifetime? And that can be scary. Yeah.
I think when you write your own obituary, you end up saying a lot of things that would never get said in your obituary if somebody else wrote it. Mm-hmm. I mean, those secret things, those things that maybe people don't know or they've forgotten about, and by writing it yourself beforehand is very liberating, and you can move right into doing that before death funeral, the celebration of life, and read your own. There was a wonderful story that I read the other day about this lady. She was dying, and she had sent out to her whole family and said, we're going to do obituary, God, I can't even think of the word now.
A workshop?
No, she wanted them to come and audition to do her obituary at the funeral. So she invited the whole family to come and audition for her obituary and her eulogy.
So
bring your best
the
shot.
Family come and talk about her.
Yeah, bring your best shot.
Interesting. I like that.
Lots of ways to do this.
Yeah. So our next clip is from the 2008 film Departures. This won the Best Oscar for Foreign Language Film in 2008. The setup here is an out-of-work cello player returns to his hometown and he's looking for a job. He answers an ad in the paper. He thinks it's a travel agency, but it actually turns out to be a mortuary. Well, in this montage of scenes, we see him start to get expertise in his role and some of the many different ways of death in Japan. Let's watch this. So one of the challenges this young man faced as he got more proficient being, it's not a funeral director per se, but working with the dead, was a lot of pushback from his wife and from his childhood friend, who he actually winds up doing the makeup and preparing the body of his childhood friend's mother. So getting the eventual acceptance of his wife and this friend that the work that he does has value. And I think that is a challenge for people who pursue the funeral business. People's fear of death can also play a role in a fear of the person who is ultimately going to help them in a time of need. What do you think of that?
I think that is relevant in working with people who are in the process of transitioning. And they're trying to come to terms of this happening in this time. The family may not even be ready to go there. And so conversations with both to help them come to terms is a huge part of what happens when you work with the death and dying. Because eventually you're going to be dealing with the grief. And it is a process.
And people are so afraid of grief and dealing with that. And of course now we have death doulas who are usually women. There are a few men out there doing that, but helping families to, and the dying person to prepare and to help with that whole process, the dying process.
Yeah.
We have one more clip from 6 Feet Under. All 6 Feet Under clips, unfortunately, are blocked on YouTube, but see if you can find a way to stream it or get your hands on the DVD of the series. This is a scene from episode 1, the first season. It's called The Trip, where David gives a speech at a funeral home convention regarding independent funeral homes versus corporate-owned funeral homes. Funeral homes are a business. Let's watch this clip. So, funeral homes are a business. That's one reason why I think it's so important that people know more about it as a business, because we all have a 100% mortality rate, and unless you want to do your own funeral, home funeral, do it yourself, file the, we didn't even talk about filing for death certificates. And you can do that in New Mexico, I believe, but this is why you pay a funeral home to do the paperwork, pick up the body. If you've got a sedan, you're probably not going to haul a body around in a sedan. So there are so many things that funeral homes provide that really does help at a time of loss. But we do need to have people be educated consumers. So that's why I like to say shop before you drop. Any other comments?
No, that was perfect.
Okay. Well, in wrapping up here, thank you for joining us on this Mortality Movies episode. You may have noticed that we started with a collection of film clips, and we are going to end with a collection of film clips. And we have a contest. If you can name all of the sources those film clips come from, email your list to me, gail@agoodgoodbye.com, and you can win this t-shirt, which says, talking about sex won't make you pregnant, talking about funerals won't make you dead. So do that. Wouldn't you start a conversation today?
Hey, I'm going to buy you these books, I think, because I think you should read them, instead of that cat book.
That's pretty serious stuff there.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with death. I think it's a big subject with me. Yeah.
Death, to die, to expire, to pass on, to perish, to peg out, to push up daisies, to push up posies, to become extinct, curtains, deceased, demised, departed, and defunct.
I'm watching Cocoon. The spaceship is taking the old people into space. That's the happy ending for old people.
If only were that easy, huh?
Yeah, I remember seeing this in the theater 30 years ago. But it's a whole different thing when you're in the demographic.
So bad.
It's like a Black Mirror.
So bad.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think it looks like death.
David,
it looks
death-
like morning. I mean, it looks...
Every movie in every cinema is about death. Death sells.